of the Charter Review Commission. I will call the roll. Twyla Jones.
Here.
Dave Albright is not here but will be coming. He's running late. Doug Detweiler.
Here.
Russell Sipin here. Dean Martin.
Here.
Drew Ramito.
Here.
Jenny Spira.
Here.
Jay Magnus.
Here.
Kimberly Monachino.
Here.
All right. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? I know I looked them over and nothing caught my attention, but that's happened before and there's been amendments, so. You notice I'm looking at you.
Yes.
All right, anybody else? Any discussion on the minutes?
Nope.
Then I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from April the 7th, 2014. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Seconded by Dean. Twyla Jones?
Yes.
Dave Albright, not here. Doug Detweiler?
Yes.
Russell Sipin, yes. Dean Martin, yes. Drew Ramito, sorry I'm answering for
You
you.
want to vote for me? Yes. Yeah.
Jenny Spira,
Yes.
Jay Magnus, Kimberly
Yes.
Monachino.
Yes.
All right, minutes are approved as provided. Now's the time for audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to say something? We'll wait till we get to the subject. It's coming up next anyway, and we can actually touch on it, well, right now. We'll just move Parks and Recreation from bullet point C up to bullet point A. Is this what we're talking?
Yeah, Amy's not a Parks and Rec.
Oh. Amy
Or
is,
Summer recess.
Yeah,
talk.
summer recess.
Talk.
oh. Let's talk about summer recess then.
Could it be?
I can control a little bit what I do in the engineering department as far as when I bid things. Unfortunately, I get glitches thrown at me. So what I did is I looked at the last 6 years of business that was conducted in the July meeting for council. And I looked at what's going to be conducted this year. As I said, I've been controlling my stuff in engineering, but then I do a lot of plans and prep for other departments that maybe, even though I tell them I want all their stuff in October, I may not get until later. For instance, this year we'll probably have an award in July of 2 projects for the golf course, just because their project is behind schedule. I don't even have some of the stuff in my hands to even start preparing for a bid. And the whole bid process takes a good month just to put it out in the paper, to get the bids back, to even bring it before council. Before that, you've got to prepare the plans and specs. So that was the one thing that was going to hit in 2014. But I did look at other things from previous years, and we did kind of a discussion. There's been a lot of ballot issues put in July. From what I saw in 2013, there were ballot issues that went on. There were ballot issues in 2012 that went in on July. I don't know how that affects some of those processes and timing for that. We have awarded bids in the past. Not only will we be doing it in 2014, but I did go look at what we did. We were awarding bids in 2013, 2012, 2011. Like I said, if it wasn't for the golf course, I would have all my bidding done before July this year. But it's kind of one of those things that moves around a little bit. Some of the other things that were done in the past in the July meeting, and one thing that needs to probably be coordinated is there was conditional use permits and plats that get approved. A lot of those have to do with commercial construction, businesses coming into town, entities. They're all rushing to try and get into the construction year. And the construction season really is your summer months. So I think that would have to be looked at. They rely on a planning commission or a architectural review board or some other meeting and that process to go through. Usually they're on the same boat as we are, rushing to make those dates. So there were a couple of those that went through in the last few years. And the one thing I didn't have, because we haven't applied for it recently, but Clean Ohio funds, that was one that hit in July. My Ohio Public Works stuff hits the last meeting in June, which I had expressed wasn't going to be a problem for me in that. And that I do every year. there were some other agreements that were done, annexation processes and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of different things. There was something for Twins Days one year in 2012, and I'm sure that was just pushing it to get it through because Twins Days is the beginning of August. So that was just kind of the recap on where we were with what had been done, and I said a lot of the stuff that gets done from the engineering end and from the commercial and industrial people, they're really trying to push to get out there so they can be under construction in June, July, August, September. Unfortunately, their schedules fall behind, so if they don't make that July meeting, they've got to wait until the end of August. So they're really not out there until September, which becomes tough for putting in parking lots and pavings and things like that. So, you know, that's always been, you know, one of those issues. One year we came back with a road program issue. We would have had to call a special meeting for that, I know for sure, based on that. And again, these are things that come up. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to hit and what year they're going to hit, because there wasn't a consistent, every year it was the exact same things on the agenda. But it looks like there's a fair amount of work that tries to get pushed through before everybody goes on the summer, whether summer recess is earlier or later, but that's kind of, you know, where I was coming from associated with what was going on. But you know, if I know that there's been a problem in the past sometimes with council coming back from summer recess, I see that more with the July 4th holiday, not wanting to come, you know, in terms of if you don't have that meeting at the July, it's going to be harder to get anybody back, enough people, quorum back in here for that meeting if that is needed, a needed meeting. So that was just food for thought, so.
The only other thing we had too that we just found out today, because we discussed this at the department head meeting, is the tax budget has to be approved by July 15th. And Karen says that she runs into July, I think, basically, we usually approve at the first meeting.
At the July meeting, yes.
For our tax budget, so she was definitely a proponent of having the July meeting.
Gary, you were gonna, like, just get some input from council members?
Yeah, I did talk to, to the council, several members, and first of all, to leave it as it is not a problem. When I mentioned addressing the day of the week thing in case there, they said if anything, just leave it where council on the first meeting in December at the organizational meeting shall set the meetings for the year. But even as it sits now, they can change them anytime they want, so it's really not that big of an issue. So I think we're better off leaving it as it is, and that's one less thing on the ballot also, which is another consideration, because you don't want to
Sure.
bog people down with extra things. So it works the way it is, and can be changed if everything accommodates that.
So Gary, you're talking about, Russ, I'm sorry, is it okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, you're talking about the break and then the day of the week that I
Yeah,
had brought up before?
Yeah,
Okay.
two separate things, yeah.
Can I address the day of the week thing, because I ended up doing some homework on this? Bedford High School homework, not Chanel homework. It's comprehensive. I'm looking, Russ. Russ is just looking in. All right, so, I mean, I think our charter's outdated, my opinion, because ours says the second and fourth Tuesday of each month.
Yes.
And ours used to be that way, and I don't know why it was changed, but I started looking at other charters. I cannot find it. I couldn't find a charter. No, I didn't go through all the charters. I can't find a charter around here that does it that way. You know, Solon says the council shall hold at least one regular meeting in each calendar month. And then, like you said, Gary, the council shall, they can set it, but I think if that's the case, then we should change it like everyone else's. And Solon says the council shall, by ordinance, make provision for the times and place of the regular meeting. This is only going to take a minute. I'm not going to take a lot of time here, but Stowe, it's 8 o'clock, the first regular meeting. Thereafter, to set it in January. Thereafter, council shall meet at such times as may be prescribed by its rules, regulations, bylaws, or by resolution or ordinance, except that it shall hold regular meetings at least once during the calendar month. Aurora, it says they'll hold regular meeting at least once a month, and they're going to set the date. The reason I brought it up originally was not, in all due respect to council, it wasn't about council. It was when that first meeting we had, I brought it up because residents had told me that they thought a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday meetings are tougher to make. If they really want to come to a council meeting and express their opinion, it was easier on a Monday when they have to travel. So they could, postpone their travel, at least get to a Monday council meeting. So then I started doing my homework on this, and I see, Akron, Macedonia, Cuyahoga Falls, none of them have it that it's preset. And then I started calling around, so I called or looked at the charters for Solon, Aurora, Akron, Macedonia, Stowe, Hudson, Streetsboro, Cuyahoga Falls, Barberton, Talmadge, and then the city of Cleveland. Solon, Aurora, Akron, Streetsboro, Cuyahoga Falls, Cleveland, Barberton all hold Monday meetings. So the thing is, we talked about before, well, maybe if you have a holiday on a Monday, that would be an issue. Well, they just move it. Because Tuesday is election day. We have council meetings on Tuesdays. So 7 out of 11 have it on a Monday. So my thing is, I think we're the ones, again, that are the anomaly. And I think it was like that. I don't know why it was changed. It could have been a political issue at some time that they wanted to change it, because before ours was like the rest of them. And then they dictated, and I don't know if there was an issue, the reason they dictated, if there was some kind of controversy. I'm not sure what the history was or why they changed it, but I think they changed it and they went backward on it instead of being progressive. And so I still say that, I understand council and some council people might travel too, but I'm concerned about the residents being able to voice their opinion. And I think these cities, when I talk to people, they have a better chance of coming on a Monday, and they do it on a Monday. So I'd still like to have that discussion and have a vote on it at some point.
Any input from anybody else? I would approach this as the way, if it's not broke, don't fix it at this point in time. And I think that it's valid that there are some people that may not be able to attend a Tuesday meeting, but for somebody not to be able to attend any Tuesday meeting is just as unbelievable as somebody not being able to attend every Monday meeting.
Agreed. But if you have something on the ballot, and let's say you get 3 readings, but if it goes on emergency, it's not any Tuesday. It could be this Monday or Tuesday. That week, you need to be there. And, I don't know why we would have opposition of letting the people decide on it. We're not making the law. We're not changing it. All we would be doing is let the people decide if they want to have it, like everyone else has it that I looked at, instead of us being an exception. So, that's the thing. I just think, hey, we're just putting it out there and let them decide. If they say, no, we want it baked 2 days, every two Tuesdays a month, then so be it. But maybe they won't.
Are you
Well, our
saying,
job is just-
Drew, are you saying to have no day listed and just allow for council to set it, or to move it to Mondays?
No, they have it, so, like you had said, you could, at council can meet, and then they can say, all the ones I went through mostly, either they have every week, they have some meetings like Akron and I think Cleveland, and that's the way I interpreted it, or they hold a meeting, and the charter just says they have to have 1 meeting a month. Some of the council meetings are like 20 minutes, aren't they, Gary? They used to be long. I know that, because I used to hear it from my father, but.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. But so if you have it that you have to have at least 1 meeting a month, that's what most of them said.
And not name a day?
And not name a day. And then council convenes, and then, and then you can decide what day of the week. But to me, when you have all these communities having it on Mondays, it just reinforces to me that what people have told me when I first decided to be on a charter review, and people were saying, hey, see if you can do something about having it earlier in the week, Monday, because I travel, and sometimes I'd like to go. That's why I brought it up. I never even thought about it. And so this kind of reinforces that to me, that they're doing it like that.
Gary, when you say, over here, when you say council has the authority to change the day, does that mean for an occasional meeting? Or at the beginning of the new council term, could council decide this year we want to hold meetings on Mondays?
Currently, they can't.
No, they can't. They could just,
Change
if there
the
was
date.
some reason in particular, they could say, instead of it being on June 7th, it's going to be on June 6th. So it's a singular, occasional meeting they could change.
That's correct. If there's election day, or you don't have a quorum, so they say, well, as just happened last month, right,
The only thing that concerns me here, I guess, is council doesn't feel it's a problem. If there is a problem, a conflict, you can change it occasionally. And
I'm not worried about council.
We have a lot of,
I'm worried about
I
the
realize you're worried about the residents and except for major issues, you usually don't get an overwhelming attendance at council meetings. But, we have a lot of resolutions going that are pretty significant, and I just wonder if we should try and control.
The volume?
Probably, yeah, we already have, what, 8 or 9 that are probably going to be moving forward.
We've only approved one.
So far, we have 4, I think. that
And we have, what, 3 more tonight
3
to
more tonight,
address?
right.
And then we haven't even gotten into the Park and Rec yet.
Mr. Maestros?
Thank you, Mr. Seifman. If I could just give my 2 cents, having been in a law director for a community that did have Monday meetings prior to this, I'll just give you a heads up on the havoc that the Monday holidays do cause with those meetings, and they do cause problems, because if you, just on a day where it snows or there's a holiday on the trash day, hang out at the reception desk here and see how many calls we get about if garbage is or isn't being picked up. I can tell you that's similar when you work at a community that has Monday holidays and Monday council meetings. People don't, you talk about people that want to come to the meetings, they assume the meeting's off, which usually it is because of the holiday. Is it the next Monday, which normally isn't a Monday, or is it the following, if it's the first and third Mondays? When are you going to move the council meeting? I mean, the vast majority of the holidays occur on Mondays, and it truly creates problems with residents knowing when the meeting is going to be held. And I just want to throw that out for consideration. If the concern is for the residents to know when those meetings are, Mondays create much more problems in my experience. Just with the cancellation, I mean, they just do, so.
Yeah, I mean, and with all due respect, if it's that big of a problem, why do so many people have it on a Monday? I mean,
They just want to get it out of the way in the beginning of the week, to be honest with you. I mean, they just set them on Mondays, and they also have meetings on Tuesdays, just like we do at Twinsburg. We have Monday Planning Commission meetings and Wednesday meetings and Thursday meetings. I mean, something is meeting just about every night in this room.
Yeah, and I'd say we've met quite a few times. This Charter Review Commission has, and we're meeting on a Monday, and nobody has come here and voiced a concern about council meetings. So, I mean, I am more than happy, Mr. Romita, to entertain a vote amongst the Charter Review Commission to see if it is something that we want to request legislation from. You're more than welcome to make a motion to see if it would get to the next step.
and if we put it on the ballot, it's not going to be that now meetings will be on Monday. It's going to be that council will set those meeting dates beforehand. And so we're just then we give the public a chance to voice their input on it. They may come to the meeting and say, hey, it doesn't work for me. They may not care.
We
But-
want you to move it back to Tuesday.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, but, again, it's curious to me that as I went through all these charters that were the exception and it was changed, I wish I knew the history of why it was changed, but I don't know why it has to be so rigid, and that, but, I mean, we can, I guess we can noodle it, and then, are we gonna have another meeting after this?
I believe so.
So I won't make a motion yet.
Okay. Back to summer recess. What I was hearing earlier was that that's another instance where if things need to be changed, they can be changed,
Correct.
correct?
Mhm.
And I will defer to what our council people are saying, since they're the ones that have to be here, and that we've run into no problems with getting any type of things passed or approved or whatnot in the past. At least I didn't hear any, correct? Yes?
Not the last 5 or 6 years, but before that we did.
Well,
When we needed a quorum to get to the office.
So is there any discussion from anybody
No,
else? That's,
I guess, after I spoke with Amy, and you indicated that you didn't think it would be a problem, but since you had time to look further at it, you're saying it could cause problems for you in some instances.
Like I said, this
Mhm.
year, I know that the golf is gonna take me into a July award to get that, if we were gonna make it in time.
Mhm.
And then I looked at the last 2 years, I'm good on my schedule for this year's project, but, the last 3 years before that, we were still bidding and making the award in July.
All right, plus, Mayor, you're saying this would be a problem for Karen, so,
Yeah, she hit a glitch, she always has that July.
and Gary, you're saying council doesn't really, whichever way, they have no strong feelings when you spoke
Right.
with them?
In fact, their recommendation was, in terms of that particular issue, the summer recess, just leave it, because we
Leave it.
could change it if we need to.
Okay, yeah.
All work's done,
Mhm.
we could just not have that meeting in August.
so are we all comfortable with passing over this and saying that that one's put to bed and?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's review civil service. Mr. Maestros gave us something in an email, I believe. Mr. Maestros?
Yes, section, well, first of all, I'd like to point out, with Civil Service Commission met last Thursday, and I did address this issue with the Civil Service Commission, who has language identical to the vast majority of the charter language in their civil service rules, and this is section 7.05. And I want to say in late 2010, the Civil Service Commission members had discussed and made some changes to their civil service language and their civil service rules as far as the directors of, or the classified, unclassified, classified, that the changes that we made here, specifically adding, and the language that you find here is identical to what the Civil Service Commission approved. So what they did is they went through it as the city is currently situated and made these recommendations, and that's what I presented to you. Now, in addition to that, and my goal there was to get at least both the Civil Service Commission and the Charter on the same page, because I truly believe the Charter needs to be updated to remove those items that I'm suggesting being removed, specifically all persons employed by any court of record, all employees of the public library, the clerk of the Board of Education. Those are kind of the obvious ones. And then the Civil Service Commission had added the rest of the department heads, which are E through K, if you see on that first page, A2, E through K they added. Now, talking to the mayor and talking to Colette today, there are two more changes that we would probably suggest. But what I wanted to do is get you what Civil Service has adopted, so we're consistent, maybe work off that. So that's what you have in front of you. And I guess what we would add in that section 2 are probably the only other two department heads that don't appear on that list. One is Director of Economic Development, or the Economic Development Director, and the other is the Law Director. Those would be the two department heads that I would suggest we put at L and M, I guess, to add, and then that list would be inclusive of all department heads in the city.
His official title is Director of Community Planning and Development,
Okay.
and that would be Larry Finch.
Right. Was that just not included because it was addressed somewhere else in the charter? Because I can remember the first Charter Review Commission I was a part of, they created that position in essence. So I know it's mentioned. I have no problem with it being included in here. My question is, why did this go for so long? And I don't have an answer, and I was on Charter Review. Why did it go for so long just having A, B, C, and D and nothing else in there?
Well, I think, quite frankly, it was one of those items that, as you go through this, and you don't want to inundate the voters with 8, 9 charter issues, that this was one of the ones that wasn't a priority, just kept falling off by the wayside. A couple years, or 5 years ago, we did present it to the electorate, which addressed the fire chief and the police chief, and I think that there was at least a message that was put out there that this was somehow going to affect the current police chief and the current fire chief and maybe affect their jobs, which it wasn't. And, you know, we tried to clean it up last time and it failed, but like I said, I mean, since I have been here, or since the last Charter Review Commission in the last 5 years, we have had one call, at least, from the school board saying, we see that your civil service is going to handle our employees. Are you going to do that? And our response was no, but I think our hands probably would have been tied if they would have pushed the issue with some of the language we had in here. And we certainly don't want to go down that path where we, the city, or our civil service commission are responsible for tests for public library and school officials. I think that we need to clear up. You know, as far as listing all the department heads, I think it didn't make sense to have some of them listed and some of them not. So that's why we're inclusive of everybody.
So I'm okay with section 2 if anybody has any thing they'd like to add into this or any discussion on it. I'm just curious, Mr. Maestros, could you just run down like to number 5 now and, you know, kind of say what's inspiring removing the words as defined by ordinances enacted by city council? There's probably a reason.
Well, what we did there is just have temporary, seasonal, or part-time positions, because that, prior to that, we had just any temporary or part-time positions as defined by ordinance. Now, in the salary ordinance, we specifically define temporary, seasonal, and part-time. All of those classifications have different categories or different definitions and different benefits that, or hours they may receive. The as defined by ordinances enacted by city council, when we talked about this with the Civil Service Commission a couple years ago, we felt that that language was just muddying up the waters, that you had to now go somewhere else as compared to simply looking at this section and saying what's covered. Any temporary, seasonal, part-time positions. City Code 147 defines those 3 positions. To then go into separate ordinances to look for them would be unnecessary. But we define all 3 of those in 147, and I'm not sure of the subsection, but Chapter 147 defines those. The Section 7, all persons employed by any court of record. My feeling was that this is probably old language that existed back in the day when we may or may not have had a mayor's court, or prior to the mayor's court, we had a court that, I don't know what they defined it, but essentially it acted as a circuit court where the judges or magistrates would go to each community and sit here, for example, for one night, and then go to another community and sit. So that's just old language that's been sitting around for 20-plus years, that there's no need for that in there. Even if we went back to a mayor's court, it wouldn't be language that we would even want in there. Again, item 11, all employees of the public library. The city is not, does not employ any of the employees of the public library, has no control over the employees of the public library. Our Civil Service Commission should not be making any decisions in that regard. The clerk of the Board of Education and those positions granted unclassified status within the employ of the Board of Education according to Ohio Revised Code. That is probably 1960s ORC language. I mean, all boards of education handle their own employees, their own hiring, their own firing, their own guidance under whether it's the civil service rules or the collective bargaining rules that they have with their employees. The city should not, and for the most part, has no connection with the Board of Education and the hiring.
So with 13 in here, if it's removed, it's not changing anything, or it's not changing the flow of what's been happening for years and years and years within the city of Twinsburg,
No.
correct?
No.
This is really just making the language match the actions or what are happening.
It absolutely is. I mean, it's just, that's just old language that's been left in here, and just, you know, like some of these things, it just gets ignored because it's not really creating a problem, but, you know, at some point in time, I think we need to address it, and that's why it's being suggested we
Okay.
do it here. The only additional in B, you have the non-competitive group which lists all positions require a license, and then all unskilled labor. Colette has looked at this, and she suggested adding a third item there, and that being clerical staff. And clerical staff, is non-competitive and would be listed there, so you'd have 3 instead of 2 items, and just number 3 under unskilled, all unskilled labor would be clerical staff.
She also added skilled and unskilled labor under 2. Because our skilled labor is non-competitive.
Skilled labor should also be, yes.
So skilled and unskilled?
Yes.
Skilled and unskilled under 2, and all clerical staff under 3.
And the only other proposed change that we'd make to the current language is in the very last paragraph. You see there, it talks about the commission shall provide for the rules of procedure. We list reasonable requirements as to age, sex, physical condition, moral character. We would suggest taking out the sex. That reasonable requirements as to sex, again, is old language. That can't be done.
Referring to gender.
Referring to gender, right.
So what would we be striking out here?
Just the word sex. Any reference to gender in the final paragraph.
Okay.
Dave, I have a question. Under 6, it says part-time secretary and civil service. Clarify that full-time or part-time, or just secretary of the civil service, rather than defining it as part-time.
Yeah, maybe that makes sense, just to make it secretary of the civil service, because we always have one. Generally, we take somebody we have on staff, and it has been part-time in the past. Sometimes it's been full-time, so rather than define it, number 6.
Strike out part-time and number 6?
Strike out the word part-time and leave it as secretary, too.
And the other possible addition would be the administrative assistant or executive secretary, whatever the title is in the salary ordinance. One to the police chief, one to the fire chief. Because they really should be unclassified if they are,
Where's that?
So what we would
confidential employees.
we'll probably do there is in item 10, where you have one secretary to the mayor. Underneath that, where that 11 is, include, because we have recently done that. We've taken the administrative assistant and executive secretary for the police chief and for the fire chief, and have taken them out of the bargaining unit with the agreement of the union, because they sit in a confidential position as secretary to those 2 safety directors. So I guess the suggestion, or my suggestion, we make that item 11, where we've already moved public library employees. We just make that executive secretary to police and fire.
So this section 7.05, with all of the additions and all of the strikeouts, would go on as one ballot proposal, is that correct?
That would be the suggestion in this one, simply because
That's
it's...
concerning to me a little bit.
Yeah.
It's gonna be an all or nothing deal, right?
Yeah, and I think, like I said earlier, I really believe that it failed in the past because of the concerns over the police and fire chief, which I think were unfounded, but I'm not so sure that that message...
Somebody's gonna read something into this and think, what's up here?
On the one that you just talked about, executive secretary to police and fire chiefs?
Yes.
Is it?
Right,
And
and
they'll, they'll each get one, and it'll be,
word that, so
so it's clear that one for police and one for fire.
Would it be feasible to break it down into section A and section B, or some way parse this out so it doesn't? It'd be a shame with all of the effort put into this if it just gets slapped to the side because people feel like there's too many changes in there.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm not sure... I'm not sure how we do that, because, in A2, which are going to be A through M now, the importance there is to have that consistent with all the department heads listed now.
Right.
I think if there's a rub anywhere, it's going to come in that section.
Yeah.
So,
looks like a whole lot of people are getting added to the city.
Mhm.
And
Well, it does, and they're
Yeah.
all, I mean, all those are existing positions.
Right,
We-
they're
We know that
existing.
sitting here, but I hear
Yeah.
what you're saying, yes.
All right, I agree with Doug that I think if they have there's going to be any questions, it's going to be that question A that people are going to go, wow, look at all this that they're putting on.
That's interesting.
Where-
Being too close to it, I never saw it that way, you know, we're just updating.
Right.
housekeeping, but people could look at it that way for
Yeah.
Mhm.
positions.
And section B is just basically a minor adjustment, getting some language added in. So at least we could get that taken care of. Hopefully, section A would also pass, but there is potential there, and all it takes is for one person to get a hold of that and start putting negative connotations on all this, and people sometimes don't look farther than that.
Dave, could you, I'm sorry, Russ.
Are you able to include the language, in the ballot language anyway, or the synopsis that would say to include or to add existing positions to Section A, Part 2, dot, 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 to,
You know, one of the things
Yeah.
that we have done, we've talked about in the past, we probably learned our lesson the last time we did this, is we always talk about doing a brochure, an informational brochure to the residents. And if we're going to take this on, I think since we have lost it at the ballot a couple times, we really need to do that time, send out an informational, flyer about that issue in particular, just to educate everybody. I think that's a good idea.
and talk to the paper too, and at least get a good, because my understanding is nothing's changing here, correct? I mean, other than cleaning some language up, that's,
And I can tell you that this is, what you have been given is what Civil Service Commission is operating under. Pursuant to their rules, they've already made that change.
Right.
So that's what and they deal with this on a regular monthly basis. And those members have been on there for years, and they have made these changes on their own because they recognize as the people that deal with those rules, they needed these changes. But Russ, I think that's a good idea, and I could, I'll get you the resolution, and I think I could draft some language that would
would you please, yeah.
lay out that these are, to amend to include the following, or to include existing department head positions in the civil service section, so they know that they're existing and not new.
And not
or-
created.
Right. Because none of these positions are new.
No, they're all there, you're right.
All of them in the entire section. I mean, whether it's the mayor's secretary, administrative assistants, whatever it might be, they're all existing. Right.
So, get that, and I think we'll take a look at it and vote on it the next time, if that's all right.
Are we going to leave 705 as one ballot issue, the whole thing? Or do we want to break it down as to classified and unclassified? And two separate ballots? Or is that going to confuse everybody and make it very difficult?
Throw a hypothetical, what if one passes and one doesn't? Does it
Yeah.
create a conflict with
Well,
it?
you'd have to divide it, almost at that B.
Okay,
And, if B passed and A didn't, we're getting very little added to what we need.
Right.
But,
But there's not.
but it wouldn't,
no.
there's no harm.
no, yeah.
That's where the brochure hopefully will come in. Yep, I think you're right.
Let me make a run at some ballot language and bring it to you.
Okay.
As one and see if that makes sense. If not, I think we could pretty easily divide it. You guys can tell me, just divide it into two and tell me where you want it divided.
All righty. Is that good?
Concur.
Ms. Monachino,
Yes, sir.
we have been waiting for you.
Bated breath, waiting
Yes.
for me to talk about Parks and Recs. Well, I did have a conversation with Derek Schroeder. He could not attend our meeting this evening, but he did have a chance to look at the draft language and did make a few suggestions. Would you like me to read through the suggested draft language and then have some discussion, or how would you like to? handle
Yeah,
this?
then I just like, I want a minute to, are we gonna go over what you had given us via email?
Yes,
Let
yes.
me dig that up, because I
Yes.
do have it.
143.01.
This one? Yeah, here's mine.
Oh, I like that one better.
It looks like it was
Oh,
sent.
what she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that one. Okay,
I sent it on
another one,
April 6th.
Right,
that one.
okay.
No. She held up something pretty tough.
If you need to share mine, we can share.
What does it look like?
Where is
That's
it?
not,
That's not what
that's
she
not what
held
she-
up.
Was this it?
Yeah, would you hold
Can you hold that up again, please? Sorry.
It was probably, it was this. It was a longer piece.
Was-
I just,
it is.
and
Yeah.
it's, the second page looks like this.
Oh, do I have a second? Yes, we're good.
You-
You're welcome.
The first thing says March 31st, 2014 draft, correct? Right at the
Correct.
top? Yep, we're good.
Okay. Oh,
Now, this was a combination of looking at several samples of charters from other cities, and then going back through our charter to add some of the language from some of the other commissions to make it sound consistent. We started off, and the current language is, the Department of Parks and Recreation shall administer and promote the city of Twinsburg public parks and recreation facilities, and shall provide for the added enjoyment of life through recreation. And this was amended November 2nd, 2004. And after some discussion and looking at some of our current language and other samples from other cities, a few suggestions would be, the Department of Parks and Recreation shall consist of a Director of Parks and Recreation and shall be appointed by the mayor. The duties of the Director of Parks and Recreation shall include knowledge of municipal park and recreation operations, budgetary and supervision skills. The Parks and Recreation Board shall consist of 7 electors, 1 member from each of the 5 wards, 1 junior member, and 1 senior member to be appointed by the council. The appointments to the board shall be for a term of 3 years. A vacancy occurring during the term of any member of the Parks and Recreation Board shall be filled for the unexpired term in the manner authorized in an original appointment. No member shall hold any other city office. And as I said, if we want to add additional language, I tried to really look at what we currently have in the other areas in our charter and capture a few of those lines to make it consistent.
Now, Jenny, you had, were you?
Yeah, I was,
Yeah.
The Parks and Recreation Board, where is that currently set up? Is that through resolution? Through ordinance? It's in the ordinance. So this language is already out there in an ordinance. Would there be any reason to add it then within the charter?
I think it goes back to the discussion that we had way in the beginning when we first started meeting about the organization of the charter and keeping departments separate from the commissions. We kind of have our, what the planning commission intermingled into, it's right under the Department of Law of the planning commission. And we're trying to give our departments separate from commissions, that's the first thing. The second thing we talked about was having more flexibility in appointing our commissions. Maybe not specifying that every commission has to have a representative from every board. If we include this language in here, I think first of all, it should be separate. It shouldn't be under the department. The commission should be separate. It should be listed just like the planning commission is separate from the planning department.
Right, and it would require then its own resolution then to create a section for the Park and Recreation Board, which really, I mean, I like adding the information about the appointment and the duties to update what we already have, the current language on the Department of Parks and Recreation. But I don't know that we need to include that section on the makeup of the Park and Recreation Board.
I think we really only have in the charter civil service planning, as far as commission, civil service commission, planning commission. I'm not even sure that these are.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
The civil service and planning commission. Oh, yes. Or zoning appeals. Again, possession, quasi, so those are the three that are.
Because we also have section 139, or chapter 139 in our code dealing with the Board of Zoning and Building Code Appeals also. Right.
But yes, I do agree with the definition of the department and the planning director.
And I'm very comfortable with those pieces in it, and not to include the Parks and Rec, the board, that would be fine. And that's-
Oh, that's the condensed version here. Yep.
Right, and, right, which, right now, you can do that. You can make a change if you see the need. Mhm.
With the language.
Yeah, it goes back to the discussion again that we had early on. If you have three really good candidates in Ward One that want to be on the Parks and Rec Commission, and you're dragging other people to be on it just to fill a ward spot, is that really,
Right,
you know, is that
right.
something?
Are you getting the best people?
Right, right.
People with the interest.
Right. So are we saying we'd like to see language
Yes.
that would, if we're looking at the back part here, basically end at the words supervision skills? Mr. Maestros, do you have what Ms. Monachino provided? Oops.
I don't know if I have the most recent version.
No, you have something else there. So on the second page, if you go down about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sentences, what we're proposing would end after the word supervision skills. Strike out the rest after that, where we
Okay.
get into,
I don't know who's.
a little more in-depth
I don't want to mark it up.
definitions.
Keep it, go ahead. You got it, okay. So at the end, where you have the line there, okay.
Cut it in half.
Okay.
So are you good there?
So you want everything in 712, everything on there up until that last section that you told me?
Yes, so just on that second page, the one paragraph.
Okay,
We'd
but
have
everything on the
everything-
first page is staying, or no?
Well, everything on the first page basically is condensed into that paragraph on the second page.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's what I was saying, this is exactly
Yeah.
the same.
Giving you a breakdown of
Got it.
existing and then appointment and
The-
duties, just putting it all in one nice, neat little paragraph.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So, are we good right there?
You're good, yes.
Thank you. Would you like to move on to section 3.01? Council number and terms, this was something, bless you, Mr. Maestros provided to us.
If you recall, this was something at the last meeting, we talked about trying to come up with some consistency of the start and end of council terms. And that was the goal of this amendment, that being that the regular term of a council member will commence at the first regular meeting of December following the election, and the regular term of the council member shall be for 4 years and shall terminate on the date of the first meeting of council in December, 4 years after assuming office.
And then striking out the, the language that we had in there that everybody needs an explanation for about why it was in there, but it was really just for the first,
Just to get going.
just to
All
get
right.
things staggered,
Yep.
so.
So, we're staggered.
Is there any discussion with this? Because I think it looks great the way it is, and I'd like to see the ballot language on that.
Good with me.
Do you see that, Gary? Did you get that? As far as what that says?
Yeah, I heard.
Oh.
And then the last thing that Mr. Maestros provided to us was section 4.05.
Excuse
The
me, Russ?
po-
do
yes.
we need to take a vote on accepting section 3.01?
I was we're more than welcome to take a vote right now. I was gonna vote on the language that he brought back to us, though.
Oh, I mean, that,
I agree.
I think that is, this is it, isn't it?
Well, I want the things with the whereases and
Oh,
the,
I got it.
those
The
things.
official
Legal
ballot,
document.
yeah.
ah,
But if
okay.
you'd like to.
Oh, no, okay. I
Okay.
see what you're saying, okay.
It does say here, in that, Dave, I'm guessing you'll clean that up. It says, "and shall terminate on the date," in the red.
Yes, thank you.
On day, huh?
I have to read all this. I read
Right.
small words. Chunk 'em. On the.
So just to provide a synopsis here, we're requesting ballot language for 3.01 for 7.12
7.05.
and 7.05. And that is where we are, right? Correct? That is
Mhm.
it. So we're going to move on to 4.05, powers of the mayor. Mr. Maestros, you have the floor again.
Thank you. 4.05, you're right, Mr. Sorese. We passed this once, and then we talked about making an amendment. So some of the language in there has already been discussed and reviewed by the commission, and then we talked about making an amendment to the legislative section B as follows: the mayor shall be entitled to a seat in council, but shall have no vote thereon, except the mayor shall have a vote on appointments to all boards and commissions. So that language, except, beginning with except, is the new language in the legislative, which would give the mayor a vote, like we talked about last time. And we kind of kicked around different options, either ever have a specific appointment or a vote, and that's the way it's drafted. So I don't know if that's the way the commission wants to go or a different direction. But I left the rest of the language in there just because that's what you've already approved, highlighted, but the only new change is in section B.
Okay. Any discussion on?
Well, the mayor wasn't here, I don't think, at the last meeting, so I just, maybe, we can get her input since she's here now to see what she thinks.
Yeah, Dave showed this to me last week, and I think it's a reasonable resolution to,
My only concern around this, I personally don't think it's necessary, but I'm good with the masses on this, and we'll put it out to the people for a vote. But as we talked about last time, the opportunity for a tie, if there's 8 people voting, so I don't know if we have to have language in here, or if you just figure that out at a council meeting, or how that would be addressed.
Well, yeah.
No, you're right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we talked about was the possibility of I mean, it's not uncommon that we'll have 6 members of council. They're kicking something around now, and really the way that we have always treated it, which is the way the law would treat it, that if there's a tie, you don't have a majority approval of anybody. So that person, if it's 4-4, they didn't have a majority vote, so they don't get appointed. Generally, I don't think, and Gary's obviously back there more than I am in these discussions, but It's usually not too contentious.
And if that happens, we have to make an appointment, so we just have to, it's like,
Revote.
it's like
Yeah.
being on a jury. You have
Right.
to come up with
You're not
something.
leaving the room until you.
Right, and like I said, there's always the potential, because just because you have 7 council people, they're not always all there. And they can only vote if they're there, so anytime, if there's 6 council people there, you still can have a tie. So there's always that
Right.
ability to have.
So could we see the official language there as well? And I think these are all things at the next meeting we can vote on. We're up to an additional 4 right now.
Well, 405 is actually a duplicate, so you're still at,
Right, because the first section was
right.
already addressed. Well, do we have the ballot language for that already?
For the first section, you do.
So would we have,
I'll bring it back with section B amended, but it's not for new items that you're throwing to the ballot.
3 new and 1 amended
Yes,
to be
Right.
official?
yeah.
Okay,
I think we're at 7 right now.
okay. 7.5?
Well, 7 that have been prepared ballot language, so
All right.
that will be.
I see by the agenda, the next thing on the list is any new business. The only thing that I think we had left open,
Dare say it?
and you know what it is, right? It's the,
Primary.
it's the primary. And I poked around and looked at dates and everything, and I just,
No
Did-
primary.
Russ, did we discuss about just eliminating the primary?
oh, God, no, we did not, even though
Because
it,
that was actually brought up to me by a council person, so,
well,
actually
About-
eliminating the primary.
Eliminating it.
No primary.
I mean, it was,
I'm open to hear ideas, and I think I told y'all before, when the primary was added, I was against it. I saw no reason, but the argument that was made for the primary was at least you have an elected official who had a majority of the vote, and some people saw that as important. My opinion, and it's only one guy's opinion, was I don't think it's that important. However, it did pass. I just have a sneaky suspicion that if you try and, you could put this on the ballot, and I think your average person will look at this and go, they're taking away our right to vote, and, which we're not, but in a way, it could be viewed that way. It's gonna be really tough, if you wanna try.
I was just throwing it out as an option. And I was curious to see what the mayor thought, or, Gary and Mr. Yates also.
Well, you could try it. What's the difference? Let the people decide. Try eliminating it. See,
Argument with all this stuff. Push back, they don't want to push it to the back.
You're forcing it, right, and it's a nonpartisan election, so it's not like you're electing a Democrat and a Republican to run against each other. Now, council knows that they can get things placed on the ballot too, but they've never tried to get that put on the ballot, so. No, I know,
You don't have a primary for the council members. You could have 7 people running for council.
right.
We have in the past for mayor, I believe the mayor here ran the first time there were 5 or something that ran for mayor. I believe that it evolved from a partisan election. Narrowing your Republican or Democratic candidates. I only went through it one time. I don't like the process of the primary. Probably will not have to go through it ever again. So it doesn't affect me one way or the other. I just.
I think it eliminates some potential thoughts that we had. I know Drew was saying, a cost of running the primary and then running to the regular election. all the time and effort out there, campaigning and so forth. So I think it could potentially shorten that time, which we were trying to do anyways.
And then the lame duck issue, to me, that's the biggest.
Then it's a done deal.
I mean, I'd favor a September primary, even with all the Labor Day and all the other issues that go with it, over a May primary, if we have to have a primary at all, but.
Eliminating the primary would,
Eliminate the problem.
well, but when we were talking about the whole thing with some council seats have to decide and some don't and this and that, anybody that would run for mayor that was running for their council seat would have to choose one or the other at that point, right? You wouldn't say, well, if I'm third, then I'll jump back into that one. You're either in or out.
You bring up a very good point. I feel that's how you should be.
Right.
You run for mayor, be all that.
Right.
Thank you, Mayor. You should have been here last time when I was taking bullets.
Yeah.
Well, some were all in and
Yeah.
some weren't.
Right.
Yeah.
So really, the only thing holding us back from moving it to September the last time, Mr. Romito, was the fact that somebody may not be able to run for council or mayor.
Yeah.
So.
Well, some would, and
Some
Dave
would.
brought up the point. Some
Right,
would and
there,
some
there,
wouldn't.
the
That's-
staggered,
that's
the,
the issue.
there were some that would be able
Some
to
would be
run
all
and,
in and some considered out.
And is that fair?
right.
Timing, yeah, that's,
Right,
that's
because-
the problem
That's,
for me.
And that's a big problem, and that's a very legitimate problem.
Right, and I had brought up if we talked about August, then that would give them the window, but if we eliminate the primary, then that eliminates all the
Right, and.
problems.
And again, we're not
Right.
eliminating anything, we're just
It
giving the
doesn't
people the
eliminate that.
opportunity to
Opportunity,
vote on
well,
it.
you're right.
It
The-
doesn't eliminate that if your seat
window.
is up for reelection, you gotta be all
Right,
in
you
or all
still-
out. If your
right.
seat's not up for reelection, you could run for mayor and still keep your seat, right?
Mhm.
So it does.
Right, the
so-
only
so
thing
there
that
is
would
a-
eliminate that would be having a primary
Right.
in August, so, or May.
Right.
Or June.
I mean, right, May elections are so under-attended, let alone trying to have one in June or August or whenever. Good luck. I mean,
Good luck trying to get rid of the primary now that it's in.
I know, right, you're right.
Question.
I mean, let's go,
I agree with that.
just an unofficial vote, and I'm just trying to get an idea here. Who is in favor of eliminating the primary? Twyla? I mean, this is unofficial, too. Yes?
Unofficial
Yes?
vote.
Officially on.
An unofficial vote.
That's
It's a
being-
poll. Let's call it a poll. It's an unofficial poll,
Good mark.
or an official poll. David?
I'll say no at this point.
You're no, how,
No,
David?
because I still struggle with that 4 of these seats gotta go all in, and 3 of these seats
Right.
can take a shot at mayor and keep their seat if they don't. So I struggle with the inequality of the certain seats versus other seats.
Doug?
Similar to that, I'm for the elimination of the primary if we can fix the issue that he just brought up.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how you do that.
I don't think you can.
We're just changing one problem to another, I guess.
Right. Drew?
I like a September primary. I mean, what's happened historically over this period of time is the council people that are sitting council people have been jockeying around their council seats to position themselves for a seat so they won't lose it. And they can still do that. If they want to do that, they can still do it, because you could run, if you're a sitting city councilman in a ward that you have to give up your seat, you can run for at large, and then you won't have to get up. I mean, that's happened already. So, I'm not saying that's a fix, but I'm just, the history, I mean, that's just a fact. That's what's happened. So, again, I mean, I said it last time, I think if you want to be the leader of the city, then you should, if you have to have skin in the game, you have to have skin in the game. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Hey, if you want to run, then there's your skin in the game. And if you're afraid of that, then, run for a different council seat, because there is, a large seat where you don't have, that won't be your problem. So
So you're more for moving it to
So I'm for putting it on the ballot that, again, letting the people decide if they want a primary. We don't decide anything here. We just give them the option to decide, And so I'm all for the democratic process and putting it on the ballot and saying, hey, if they want the primary, they can have it, and if they don't, they don't. because we don't decide anything, we just decide if it goes on there, then council has to look at it.
Right.
So,
I think that was a yes.
yeah.
That was so political.
So let me just sum up, yes.
Yes, okay. Dean?
Yes.
Jenny?
No.
No?
Because actually, listening to all the arguments, and, you know, as Dave is saying, there's pros and cons to everything. But I'm almost to the point now of saying, just leave it with May. Number one, there's only a primary if there's more than 2 candidates. If there's not 3 or 4, there's not going to be a primary. Any council people who want to run have the opportunity without anybody being penalized in the May primary. Many times there is already a May primary. Taking it to September and saying, well, half of you have to be all in, and the other ones really don't, because you're not going to be hurt if you lose anyway. So, so the reason I'm saying no is I think we should just leave it where it is
Okay.
with May.
So you're for leaving it with in May, definitely against moving it to September, and definitely not up for just eliminating the
Right,
primary.
because even eliminating it takes half of council into
Right.
a jeopardy position.
Jane? No. Okay. Kimberly?
Yes, I like the idea of letting the voters decide and putting it out there, the language, and to see what the voters have to say.
Okay.
Which idea?
Oh, that's right.
It's 4 and 4 right now.
Oh, geez.
Just a poll.
Right, it is just a poll. There's a part of me that just says, leave it alone. There's also a part of me that says, why not give them the opportunity? I don't know. I should have voted earlier. Because we're really, I'd say throw it out there to eliminate the primary if we were going to pursue this further. And let the people decide. So, I don't think we've done anything official here yet.
What? Leave it at May or throw it out completely.
I agree with
I
12.
mean, I'd try it, absolutely.
Leave it at May or throw it out completely.
think those are
Get rid of
proposal to
it.
throw it
I'm
out
fine
would
with
do
that.
that. It would
Yes.
either stay there or.
Or keep it as it is,
No change
So
or it
put-
would go up.
or
As
either
David said last
eliminate
time,
it.
change one word and look what happens.
Yeah,
Mhm.
eliminate it totally.
I agree with Juan. So the next thing, Russ, would be for Mr. Mazos to, you know, make it more legal, so we can take a look at it.
I would say, absolutely, yeah, sure, let's get a look at what
Which
some
way?
language would
To
look.
eliminate the primary, is that what you're talking?
Eliminating it, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna be so popular.
You're gonna be so what?
Popular, even more so than I am
Take the
already.
blame for it. Whatever.
Well,
So would it literally
I don't
just
know.
be removing that one paragraph around the primary? Or would you have to add language? Or you don't know yet? You'd have to.
It
Yeah,
it
have
would
to
just
take
be
a
the
look at it. I
old-
mean, it has different days, so we'd have to take a look at that, but basically it's,
Once you
taking
go
out
back,
all language to eliminate the primary, and we'll take a look at that to make sure
once
that
you
that
just go
happens.
back to the old charter, how the old charter read, I would think.
that would be interesting, I'd love to.
Yeah.
That'll be the-
Where are the old charters? Somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
They're not online.
Yeah.
Keep it at May.
You know, and I will say, I can remember when the primary was added, I think you remember, there was tension between certain council people and the mayor, and I think I have no problem saying it now, because I said it back then, it was being put on for political reasons. That was the only reason on there. Everything else around it was fluff. It was, well, it would do this, it would do that, but it was really put on there by somebody who was sitting up here at one point in time that I think really pushed this through.
And
That was, That was the crux of it, correct.
Yeah, but a council person said it who was an incumbent. You know what I mean? A council person made the statement that who was an incumbent. So it didn't affect them.
Right.
I mean, they're making that statement, but yet they're an incumbent. But they won't have a
And a
primary for
person who
themselves.
was sitting in this very chair looked at me while I was standing there and said, well, if we would have had a primary, I'd be sitting over there right now. I remember that like it was yesterday. It was put on there for political reasons.
I think, you know, when you look at the history of partisan and nonpartisan politics, you know, one of the reasons that nonpartisan politics is here is because people didn't want all that.
Right.
You know, and so that's why I say, I don't decide anything. All we decide is it goes to council, and then I'm just for the, like you said, you know, I mean, like the yes voter said, I guess, is just let the people decide. You know, see if they want it.
And like I said, this may not
Yeah.
pass council. I mean,
Yeah, that's true, too.
again, the people that may not be up and, or their seats are up may,
So, on to the next piece of new business, which is, I'm not sure, does anybody have any new business to come up? Is there anything that
Russ,
we've
could
left?
I ask something before we move on?
Yes, Jenny.
Staying under old business for
Please.
a minute. Regarding the discussion, the ongoing discussion, which we had earlier about changing the day of council. Since we're doing a straw poll, we've discussed this at 3 meetings. I think we need to know the feeling of the commission, and if we're going to look at language, have Mr. Maestros draw something up if there's enough interest, or put it to bed instead of putting it off and going through this whole discussion again.
Great idea.
vote on this? Are we gonna vote on it?
Well, we'll once again do an informal poll about changing the language as it exists today about when council meetings are held. Twyla Jones?
Russ, the issue is what? Leave it the way it is or change it to what?
Like everybody else has it.
A
So-
generic language.
So it would be.
Yeah, let's get
yeah.
to specific language.
Yeah, please.
Get Twyla's vote first.
I know.
Go in reverse order.
So, I mean, I have some examples. Do you want that?
Please.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I-
yeah.
Okay. So, you know, it says, "The council shall meet at such times as may be prescribed by its rules, regulations, bylaws, or by resolution or ordinance, except that it shall hold regular meetings at least once during each calendar year." And Mr. Maestros, I have several, you know, copies of different ones, and they're pretty much all follow
Right.
that same verbiage.
Right.
So, you know, if that's what we're looking at, they're all pretty similar.
Yeah, I was just trying to clarify if we were putting a different day of the week or leaving it up to council.
No, that's my whole point, is that you wouldn't put a day in the meet. It still may be that council decides, hey, you know what? Let's do it, you know, the second and, the second and fourth Tuesday of the month.
Right.
I mean,
The way-
it gives you flexibility. I don't know why the charter should tie it up.
It's a permanent.
The way it
Yeah.
exists today, it says, shall hold regular meetings on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, providing that when a regular meeting date falls on a holiday or holiday eve, council or due to other extenuating circumstances may by motion reschedule such meeting date. So there was,
And Dave,
so basically,
Dave wasn't here, but my point was, Dave, that, I mean, I looked at 6 different ones, and they all had that language. And I know ours was like that before, and I don't know, Mayor, if it was before your time.
Yeah, it's always been on second and fourth.
Yeah.
I came on 91 on council.
Right, so there was, but before it was like these, and they changed it. I don't know if there was some political thing going on in the city. Yeah, so, and I just thought that we should be standard like everybody else. You know, I mean, I think it needs to be updated or upgraded, however you put it. So, but, you know, they may decide, you know, Tuesday, but there are communities, and Dave, I brought this up, I looked at 11 charters, or 11 cities, and 7 of them had Mondays, and that's what was my point in the beginning. But 4 didn't. Well, you could still have it any day of the week you want. It doesn't change that at all. It just updates, in my view, updates the charter like everyone else's.
It would add something like just twice a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say
It's
Monday.
just up in the air.
And most of them, Mayor, actually, in fact, I think it could be all of them, that say that they will meet at least once a month. It doesn't say twice a month even, you know, but you know, that's something that,
Plus a
And I think what it does is gives them, just like 7.A01 or whatever, I think it was, the zoning, you know, you wanted clarity around it, and I think this gives some flexibility. That's my.
I think you would have to have it worded like that with at least once a month, because there are some months we don't meet twice during the break. And so the minimum of one a month would be the correct language.
Yeah, Drew, you're not saying change Tuesday to Monday, you're saying open up the flexibility
Yeah,
of being
yeah.
Monday or Tuesday.
Right, yeah.
Just
It was
at
just,
least once a month.
I just gave the history of it, Dave, is when people came up to me when I was gonna be on the charter, they said that they found it easier to come on a Monday. And then when I looked at all these, you know, but if you decide that, no, Monday isn't easier, or, you know, you have it for a while, nobody comes, then you hold them whenever you want. So again, it goes to what we just discussed, in my view anyway. It is leaving it up to the people to decide, you know, because to me, you know, while it affects council, it's the people that I was most concerned about, because that's who brought it up to me. But anyway,
But at their organizational meeting in December, they're gonna set the calendar for the year. So at that point, you would know,
Right.
and it would just be set. But it's just not gonna be so strict as to be this twice a month on the Tuesdays and.
So would it be set in stone in December?
No. It would be set, but something might come up.
Change it anyway.
We've called meetings during our break when we needed them in the past. So it can change, but it's generally set for the year.
But are most of the meetings, with maybe the exception of some of the summer ones, held on a Tuesday today? Like,
Yes.
okay, so
All
like
of
on
them
the
are.
second and okay, right. So my question is, if we allowed this for this flex point that was in there, so that in December, you say we are going to hold all of our meetings on Monday or Friday or whenever, but to provide consistency for the year,
Right.
just so that, you know, somebody wants to come, they know what day it's gonna be on.
Right.
Right.
But I don't
Right.
want it shouldn't be locked into once it's set, because there may be times when it has to be changed. But like
And-
we had,
Yeah, and that's-
as was mentioned earlier, there wasn't a quorum last month, so we changed one of our meetings to a different Tuesday.
To accommodate.
Tell everybody that the meeting
Yeah.
has changed.
They publish it. They put it on the board out
and
front.
some of the verbiage in here states that, you know, it has all those, obviously, you know, they work like we do, restrictions and regular, special meetings, you know, there's verbiage in for that.
And really what you're defining are regular meetings, and then you have
Right.
language for special meetings as far
Yeah,
as notice
right.
requirements.
Yeah.
So a regular meeting shall be a certain day, so the ordinary citizen could know what day that meeting's gonna be on,
Yeah,
and then
But it
special
wouldn't be by
meetings.
charter, it would be, the council would be setting that.
Yes.
The new incoming council would set it, and they could set it for the whole year. So, but I can give these to Mr. Maestros, the ones,
Sure,
I didn't print them all off, but I have those pages, so you have 'em.
Okay.
So we have two council members present today. Has anybody expressed concern, like, why don't you guys meet on a different day because I can't get to it on Tuesday?
Not to me.
I think consistency is important. And you kind of know when you're going to have a meeting, so you can kind of schedule around that. And then if something arises and you have to change it, you still have the flexibility to change it, which is okay. And I think that's flexible enough, or that allows you to change it. You're saying you can still change it.
Yes.
Although we say, okay, we're going to have it every second and fourth Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
But if something arises, we can change it, right?
Yeah.
I,
We would never change, like, I don't think the day of the week, but we might, if something is happening on that
Right.
week, then we might change the week.
yeah,
If it's on Tuesday, it would be a different Tuesday,
Right.
at least from what I've seen in 8 years.
okay.
See,
And does that work? I mean,
I don't think it's a bad idea, but I also don't think it's a necessary idea now. I'm more than, to go back to Jenny's thing, and maybe just, let's take a straw poll right now about how everybody feels about it, and let's just throw, do we want to leave it as is? Let that be the question. Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, that's a very good point, is that people in Twinsburg, I don't know how many years this has been going on, you know,
When city council? Tuesday.
Right, Tuesday, second and fourth, Tuesday. And if there's a holiday or something at that point, you know, they're on vacation during the summer, we know that. Council members, I've never heard any council members state that that was a problem for them to get to. Yes, and anybody's going to have an occasional day where something comes up, but I guess I'm of the, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's not, I don't feel it's that compelling of an issue to put on when we have so many other things.
And that's,
that
that's,
are
that's the
important.
second point of this, is we're getting quite a few items on here.
I think more than we've seen in some past charter
Oh, correct.
review commissions.
Absolutely. So,
And again, you know, we're not changing it. We don't have that ability, that power to change it. What we're doing, again, is letting the people decide. And, you know, when it comes to that, I'm all for the democratic process, just like the primary. It's the
Well-
same thing. I don't know if you ask the council people, if they here today, just like this issue, have you had a lot of buzz, or you have a problem with the primary? They might not have said the same thing. Or the mayor having a vote on the commissions, was there an issue there? You know, I mean, it's the same argument every time, but, you know, hey, if you don't want it changed, fine, but we're not changing it either way. We're just giving a flex. If you vote no, then you're saying, I don't even want to let the people decide. If you vote yes, you're letting them decide. I mean, that's what you're doing. It's the same with the primary.
see, but here's the thing. We're sitting here on a Monday night, we've had 7 charter review meetings, and nobody has come here to voice an opinion about they want want flexibility for council. And it's not like somebody's gonna come in here and say, council, we'd like you to change your meetings from Tuesday to Monday. You know,
Right.
nobody's done that. Nobody's addressed it at council. That's why I just asked. Nobody has brought it up about them changing that. That's why I don't see change being necessary now. Not to say that at some point down the road, maybe this will be necessary. It can also say that any point in time, if council saw the need to change the wording in here, they can put it on the ballot themselves. They can get things added. So I just don't see a reason of adding another potential amendment to the ballot, but I will take the poll, and the question will be, who's all for leaving it the way it is right now? Twyla Jones.
Leave it, you still have your flexibility.
So is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. David Albright.
Leave it.
Doug Detweiler.
Leave it.
Russ Sipin. Yes, leave it. Dean Martin.
Yes.
Drew Ramito.
No.
Jenny Spira.
Yes,
Jay Magnus.
Yes, leave it.
And Kimberly Monachino.
Yes, leave it,
Okay.
just because of the number of amendments and other issues that are out there.
Okay.
I am still for democracy, though.
Obviously not.
That was Dean. Yeah.
Is there any other new business that we need to discuss about anything that we have not addressed yet that
Rigid people.
perhaps was on Jenny Spira's, thing that she provided us at the beginning with all of the bullet points that we had run down? I was looking over, I did not see, I have it out somewhere, but God knows it. It was very colorful.
What are we looking for?
Here we go.
No, it wasn't. There we go. So we ran over meetings of council, election of mayor. Vacancy in the office of mayor, we've addressed. Powers of the mayor, we've addressed that. Limitation on rate of taxation. I guess that was more, do you remember
I
that
think
was
we just
discussed.
had
questions for
questioned,
clearing up what a mill
what it
is?
meant,
Yeah.
right.
Aaron did that.
Contracts and purchasing and posting public events online. Yes, we've addressed that. Civil Service Commission, I think that we have cleaned that up. We've addressed that. Article 12, administrative departments, commissions, and boards.
That was just housekeeping stuff.
Yep. The Department of Parks and Recreation, we addressed tonight. 7A01, we have addressed that. And running down miscellaneous things, I don't think that there's anything in here that we have not addressed. So, I don't have any new business to bring up this evening. If, does anyone else? Okay.
I just want to say one thing, 'cause I don't know if I'll make it back to any of the other meetings, but you guys are doing an awesome job. And it's just amazing to watch how everybody grew in their understanding of the charter from the first night we sat here to now. And it's really been a pleasure working with everybody.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the attendance and input. That's been very valuable. I'd like to move on to audience comments at this point in time. Yes, sir. Mr. Metropolis, come on up. Come on down.
Come on down.
I mean, earlier you discussed with the law director about the day when council starts their term. I'm still of the opinion that you should pick a day, whether it's December 1st or December 5th, and just go with that day rather than have the floating day. But that's it. That's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you.
Didn't we discuss that?
Well, we did discuss about
That
picking the
The
first,
first Monday.
Well, it's
First meeting, isn't it?
It's
first
first
meeting.
Tuesday, but I understand what Mr. Metropolis is saying. It's a designated day, so there's no confusion and, on that, I mean, but that's, I mean, we designated, and that was the language you had before you tonight. It's designating that day, which would be the first Tuesday of December following the election.
Dave, I just want to say one thing here. When I fill out my ethics report every year, they always ask for the end of your term.
Right.
And I think it would be really nice to have a day that ends December 1st or ends December 5th for all of our legal documents we have to fill out.
Right. Well, remember, we went through this with the Board of Elections 2 terms ago about, they called and said, when do these terms end?
Right.
And the problem with that is when we talked about that, is that if you have a December 1st date, then you have to have the December 1st date as the commencement term, regardless of a Saturday or a Sunday or whenever that day falls. Okay, and you can do that, but it has to be, you're stuck with that date because you have council going out and council coming on board. So you have to be in a position to be able to swear those folks in as the vacancies occur, but we can certainly do those dates and.
I just like it for the clarity of it.
Sure, no.
You know, I'm always sitting there trying to figure out what the.
As I said when we discussed this, I think there should be a date too, like whatever it is, December 1st. And if it falls on a Sunday, it's a Sunday. Everybody will come in and get sworn in and, that,
Even swear them in beforehand.
yeah, before it.
You can, I mean, you have, right, the council term ends on a date certain. I mean, generally, you're doing them on those dates, so.
so,
And I brought it up for the same reason, because I fill out those forms too, and then you're running to a calendar trying to figure out when am I done and when did I start and all that.
Do we want to look at
yeah,
putting a specific date then?
I think, yeah. I've heard
Did this, but
yes, yes. Mr. Yates, do, you'll come in on a Sunday.
yeah.
We show up for every day of the week in different places and different things already, so to come in for a council meeting after winning an election, get sworn in,
Then I'll defer to you right now. What date do we have in mind? Do we have a date? Something that you know would work? Maybe that would at times coincide with that first meeting? So maybe you
Well-
pick something December 6th?
I think the December 1st is fine. Somebody who lost the election, if they happen to be already on council, they want out anyway, and somebody coming in is ready to get sworn in. Even though the meeting might not be till a week later, so what?
January 1st. I mean, we're an anomaly having ours in December.
Most of them are in January, and the rationale for most of that is that to give the Board of Elections, I mean, back then, you need more time certainly to certify the election. You don't want to run into a situation where you don't have a certified election and you have a date. It's usually not a problem unless you have a recount based upon.
But you still have the bottom line.
We have gone through recounts, though, in the past with council, I believe.
1991 was
Oh, was there? There's one after that, though, too, I think.
There was. Murphy and,
Mayor's
Yeah.
daughter. The mayor's daughter, wasn't it? Is that the one?
was it Murphy Studer?
I think it was 18 votes or something like that.
Yeah, it was less than 20 votes, I remember that.
So if you're looking for a recommendation, December 1st.
December 1st?
I don't have any problem with that, if it gives them a,
What are the other charters interested? Is there a date January 1st in other cities or?
Honestly, it's, the ones that I've seen, that I recall, it's a date certain after the certification of the election. 7 days following the certification election, or the next Monday following the certification of the election.
right,
Which is
that,
still really
yeah, gets you
floating.
into
Right.
the, not, never, every time it'll be different.
Yeah, you would never, right, it would always be different, correct.
I mean, we've always managed to figure it out. It's not that,
Right.
it's just that,
Right.
Well, maybe, council, you could have a discussion about it, what a good date would be, and then bring it back to.
I don't think they're going to care, right? I
Not
think,
that big
I,
of an issue, I think.
It's not that big of an issue, we've been talking about it for 20 minutes.
right.
December 1st.
So do we want to say December 1st? I'm all for that. Do we need a little straw, do we want to ask Mr. Maestros to provide us with some language?
I'll put together,
Okay.
well, we did the language tonight, so it's just a matter of changing that to
The
a date
date.
certain.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll bring it back and we'll vote on it next meeting. Speaking of which, do we have any miscellaneous business? Guess you could say this was kind of miscellaneous. So the next meeting would be, what are we doing, the first and the
May
third
5th.
Mondays?
Well, actually, we weren't locked into any certain dates, which was really nice.
See, I was told that we
Yeah.
were. That's the meeting that I missed.
What's good is goose for the, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
We're leaving it up to the people to decide when our meeting is.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like a Tuesday, but, you know.
We were doing every week, and then we
now.
Split
Switch
agreed to go every other week.
Every other, okay.
That was nice that we had that flexibility.
Cinco de Mayo.
So may we,
That would be May 5th then?
and refresh my memory, deadlines, where, Joe, we would be well ahead of the deadline
Oh,
if we set the meeting for
hey, Dave,
May 5th.
Cinco de Mayo, are you gonna be here?
Cinco de
That's
Mayo.
another
Are you gonna
holiday.
be here?
Another holiday.
Make it May 6th? David, are you able to make Tuesday meetings or no?
As long as it's not council, May 6th is the first Tuesday, so,
Oh.
yes.
Wait, are you guys really
No,
saying
May
you could
6th
be
we're
here 'cause
fine.
it's Cinco de
May
Mayo?
No.
We're good, Hank.
Go out afterwards.
Yeah.
May 6th is is an election, by the way, just so you know. There's, yeah,
Yeah.
The primary.
Can
Yeah, it's
anybody not make
primary.
May 5th?
there's primaries.
Yeah, the primary, May 6th.
Oh, not for,
Can anybody not make May 5th?
Right, was there a reason why we didn't, were you joking?
no. I got another conflict on Mondays now, but
Oh,
I would have to work around it. It's a little white ball. I actually am contributing to the
Oh,
city.
golf
council.
league.
Glen
They would
Eagles.
meet at sundown?
Yeah. So I'm good about
would
seven.
moving it to the 12th help anybody, and does that,
The 5th is fine for me.
the 5th is fine?
12th is better for me, but I'm up, whatever works for everybody else.
I am out I'm, the 5th or 6th, I mean, if you'd rather go the 6th, we don't have council and
The
that.
5th is fine.
The 5th, okay.
And-
We'll do it the 5th, May 5th.
I'm not gonna change it now.
But that don't matter.
Be on the schedule.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
Seconded by Dean. Twyla Jones,
Yes.
Dave Albright,
Yes.
Doug Detweiler,
Yes.
Russ Sipin, yes. Dean Martin.
Yes.
Drew Ramito.
Yes.
Jenny Spira,
Yes.
Jay Magnus,
Yes.
and Kimberly Monachino.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 8:35. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well.
Depend-